It says we're live. It says we're live on Facebook, according to me.
Good. So, hello everyone. Good afternoon and good evening, depending on where you are, whether you are in the UK or in the US or Portugal or somewhere else. So, I'm Holly Mack, your host for the Work Experience, and this evening we have joining us the wonderful Polly Hearsey, and I'm just going to click record on our session as we wait for a few more people to come online. And tonight we're going to be discussing the topic of success. So Polly, tell us a little bit about you, your work. Just give people a bit of an introduction for those who've not come across you or worked with you before.
Okay, I'll do my best. So I came into having my own business through, well, I was made redundant, and I thought, well, I knew I didn't want to work for anybody else. Every time I thought about working for somebody else, actually, I was getting really sort of like tight-chested, and it wasn't very pleasant. And I came into working for myself with some strong values because I came from a charity background. But I started in consultancy, working with local businesses, and I was talking to somebody this afternoon about this and how sort of like every step I took me on a deviation from the main path. I found myself going further and further. And 6 years ago, if you told me that I would be where I am today, talking to people about the energy of their businesses, about using the elements as a way of guiding your thinking and your action, I think I probably would have thought you'd gone completely crackers. It's been such a journey, sort of like of not one big thing. It's just been lots and lots of little things that have taken me into seeing the world of business through a very different lens. And so I've come to the conclusion, although a lot of the work that I do is very valid to people in all sorts of situations, my focus is about helping people who are here to make a difference through having their own business. Because I think that business is part of the solution. It's going to be not just one way of creating positive change in the world. It's going to be a core and key way of creating change in the world. So I'm trying to find different ways of exploring that and pursuing that. And it brings me into the human experience as a way to actually translate it, because at the end of the day, every business is run by a person. Every business is filled by its employees. And so it's the people who are at the heart of it that matter.
Mm-hmm. So for anyone that doesn't understand maybe some of the language you've used there, what do you mean when you say the energy of business? Because that sounds very out there, and it might be a bit confusing to many people.
Okay. To rein it back into some pure scientific terms, quantum physics tells us that everything is energy. So there's the energy of your intention, which is not too far out there. And there's, where your focus goes, the energy flows. Is that how the phrase goes? But, it's energy sort of is everything, because our bodies are actually energy that has coalesced into molecules. Our businesses are energy that we have created through our intention of what we want to do in the world. And although that sounds very out there, it's actually an incredibly easy way to tune into a much deeper level of wisdom that we have that goes beyond a lot of the programming and acceptable thinking that is drummed into us a lot. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So I think that phrase you were talking about is where focus goes, energy flows. Is that the phrase?
Yeah, or is it? I can never quite remember what the phrase is, but it's basically, what you put your energy and your focus into is where the energy will go. Mm-hmm. So if you feel this is where, you know, the law of attraction gets all hung up. You know, but people start talking about how, you know, if you focus on the negative, you're going to get negative, and if you focus on the positive, you'll only get positive. And you know, I don't subscribe to that view, but I do subscribe to the fact that you call in, or you and you bring to the world what you choose to bring to the world. So it's about understanding. So really understanding what it is that you are here to do in this world is key to actually being able to say, how are you then going to make your work part of that?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I mean, I can certainly understand that from my own personal experience as well. You know, you touched on it you did a bonus session on Saturday about tapping into your essence, which was brilliant. And what it really reminded me of is when I went through the whole phase of questioning, what am I doing with my life? Where am I heading? I knew I wasn't in the right place. And it brought up for me this lesson that I kind of went through over time, of realizing that I needed to figure out what it was that I wanted. And what I see now, both for myself and for clients that I work with who are going through career changes, is once you get absolutely clear on where it is you want to go, it's not just like some magical, here's a, you know, if you think the right way, then suddenly, you know, you attract everything that you want. But there is definitely the ability to focus in much more. And so instead of holding, say, what some people might call a mixed vibration, where part of you maybe wants to make a career change, but part of you is still stuck doing what you've been doing, and you haven't fully committed on the inside to the new direction because you haven't been 100% clear about it.
yeah.
And the clearer you get on that sense of direction, what you want, where you're heading, the easier it becomes, because it's like your brain is programmed on the lookout for, how am I going to make that happen? It's trying to solve the right thing, as opposed to, you know, this constant switch from maybe different opportunities and different directions. And I'd say, you know, certainly that sense of, are you really committed to the future that you want to, is a big piece of that puzzle, in terms of
piece.
heading towards what we might think of as success.
But a message that I want to share, though, is that you do not have to do all of this in one go. You don't have to have all of the answers. And I think one of the things, the reasons that we wanted this experience to be a longer experience, is because it's about an unraveling and an unwrapping, if you like. So, you know, the work that in the first lesson that you did with about deficit values and sort of like saying, well, what don't I want, is the starting point for the journey of sort of unraveling what it is that you do want. And there are steps that you need to go through in terms of understanding what you want, how you want to do it, how you want to be it, how you want to, you know, to be true to you, because that's a key part of fulfillment, isn't it?
It really is, yeah, definitely. So I thought, if you're up for this, Polly, what we'd just do is give a quick shout out in the group, just to get a sense on where people are at in terms of their personal definition of success. How clear, if you're listening live, how clear do you feel currently that you are in terms of what you see as success for you? So give us a 10 in the comments if you feel that you are super clear, you absolutely know where you're heading in the future, what you're trying to build and work towards in terms of your personal success. Give us a 0 if you've got absolutely no idea, you've never put any thought into this. Give us a 3 if you've just done the exercises with us in the first lessons of this event. And you can place yourself anywhere in between, like that 0 and 10, depending on where you naturally feel you are. And this isn't to name or shame, it's just to give everyone a chance to really work out, where am I right now, before we go into this, because I know that Polly's session is going to be super reflective. And being reflective is a skill that I think is so important to learn, that we don't always naturally have. And being able to really work out on a regular basis, where am I at with this, whatever it is that you're looking at, and then notice what that changes after you've done some reflection.
Mm.
So thanks, Helen Maria. We've got a 6. Lindsay has given us about a 6 as well.
That's good.
It's very good. I think what I find with these 0 to 10 things sometimes is most people place themselves somewhere between a 6 and an 8 most of the time.
Mm. But I think, you know, it's interesting, isn't it? That, I mean, the 6 had, I guess my question would actually be is, how does a 6 make you feel? Does a 6 makes you feel that you're just about edged over the fence line, or does it make you actually feel quite comfortable? Because actually a 10 can make you feel really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, so I there's a sort of follow-up question for you, Helen Maria and Lindsay, is about, you know, whether or not you're happy with a 6, just to get us going.
Yeah, and I think that point you've just made about having a 10 and that being terrifying is very true, because so often that brings up the next set of questions about what's my first step, and how do I even, I know what I want to do, but how do I even get there?
Yeah.
You know, and I know I've certainly suffered from that, because I've been focused for so long on what do I actually want, and then once I knew what I want, it's been, oh my gosh, how do I even get started with this? Where do I even go? So it brought in the next thing. So
yeah.
We've got Maria Coulter says an 8 because I think I'm clear. I also feel like I'm being guided, and who knows where that will lead me.
Mm.
Lindsay says she still has more work to do, and that's it so far on.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, I think this is the chances are that you're thinking that you know what success means to you. And not that I wish to disabuse you of that, but I think that we have taken on huge amounts of what society and our family thinks that we should want for a success in terms of defining our success. And I'm talking about that, you know, at a very broad level. So I'm not necessarily talking about the people who have responded here, but I am talking at a broad level that we take on huge amounts of that. If you think about the expectations that we have in terms of getting the promotion, getting the pay rise, having the house, the kids, the husband, the wife, the normal life, there's a lot of expectations on us around that. Now, that is written into every part of our society. You can't get past it. It's in every aspect of our society, and it's capitalized upon. So we are exposed to it all the time. So yeah, we take stuff on even if we don't consciously take things on. It's always there in the background, and that has a masking effect on what it is that we really genuinely truly want. And it makes it very much more difficult to get at it, particularly when we're in a situation where we're being constantly, our choices are being reinforced all the time. So if you are in a job that you don't find fulfilling, for example, but you, as you said, moving into another one, it's like, how the hell do you even, you know, if you're an accountant and you want to become a massage therapist, how do you make that, you know, as the steps to get there can be seen like they are completely overwhelming. So it can, being where we are can actually reinforce what we think we want, when actually what we really want is something different. So I think it's, once we start this process of actually examining it, then we do sort of get the snowball rolling a little bit. I'm afraid it's an unstoppable train once you start it, because there's only one way to go, and with that, and it's fantastic, and that is to find out who you are and what it is that you want from your life, and then to make it happen.
Yeah,
which is kind of what we're here for.
Yeah. So I think on that note, it's probably a good point to dive deep into your session. Just so you know, we had some responses from Helen, Maria and Lindsay. And Helen Maria said, she's only just working out what she wants to do based on some values that she identified. She recognizes that these aren't currently being met, these values, and she's hoping that she's got the right route and that she's judged it right. Whereas Lindsay says she gave herself a 6, and she says, I'm certainly clearer and have a vision for now for the steps that I need to take to reach my goals. So it sounds like everyone's just slightly edged over that. They've got some level of clarity, but they're not 100% focused.
Yeah. Helen Maria, I want to say something, and it applies to everybody, but I want to say this specifically to you because you said you were worried that you judged it right. This is a journey where you are going to have to be kind and gentle to yourself. You know, do not be harsh on yourself. We're all in this journey that we take. We are all going to go down some rabbit holes. We are all going to take some wrong turns, but they are part of the process of learning and becoming. So please be kind to yourself. Please be gentle with yourself about the choices that you make, because there's no wrong choices here. However you've judged it right. It's just that you may change your mind. That's fine. So, yeah, please be kind to yourselves. Don't beat yourselves up. I want to say that. So, yeah. One of the things that I really wanted to talk about was how much wisdom we have internally. And this journey that we are going on is the first step of it is to hear and to listen. And the second step is to actually trust what you hear. And the third step is to take action on it. And it's not an explosive process in the main. It's a gentle process. It's an unraveling and an evolving. So it's, to being kind to yourself about that process and allowing yourself to experiment and allowing yourself the opportunity to make mistakes is absolutely pivotal. I've written something down there that I really wanted to make sure that I covered. Maybe I have, or maybe I've covered it. So what I want to do with this session is actually mostly pass it over to you, because as I said, you have this inner wisdom, you have this inner guide who's incredibly knowledgeable, who knows exactly what you want, but we've lost the ability to listen because of all of the bombarding thoughts that we get. So what I'm just going to do with my session is really sort of like put you in the driving seat. So I'm going to guide you through a process of reflection. And honestly, if you'd asked me 3 years ago, would I be doing this sort of work? I just could not believe it. It's become something, for me, part of discovering my own path and discovering my own power is accepting that this is something that actually I am good at, even if it felt deeply uncomfortable. And so it's now become one of my primary tools, which, is really quite surprising. So that's what I'm going to do, is because it gives you the power. So we're going to, if you can't do this exercise at the moment, if you haven't got peace and quiet, if you've got kids running around or, there's just chaos all around you and you can't do this, when we start it, I'll get Holly to take a timestamp and we'll put that in the comments, and so you know where to go back to. So if you can, you're just going to need about 15-20 minutes of just calm, where you can just drop yourself into a period of reflection. And then we'll be okay. So that's going to be the main thing that I'm going to talk about. We're going to give your inner voice the mic. We're going to ask your head first, and then we're going to ask your heart what you want. But in order to know what you want, you've got to know where you're holding yourself back. And that's where I want to start, because if we can start with how are you holding yourself back, then you will get the ball rolling with being able to ask yourself some deeper questions. And I'm hoping that by having this process to work through, you can then apply it into other situations. I hope that makes sense. So if you are able to do this now, how are we going to do a timestamp?
I'll just pop a comment in, Polly, saying
Okay.
This is the point for some quiet time for reflection.
That's a good way to do it, yes. That's one of the benefits of doing it in two different places at the same time. So, so I've got two exercises and they flow into each other. So the first one is I want you to just take a really deep breath and just go, let it all go. And I'm going to ask you a question. Where are you holding back on what you want? Do not overthink this. If something instantly popped into your head, that is it. Go with it. If nothing's come to you, take another couple of deep breaths. And just allow anything that wants to come to you. And if nothing's coming, just relax. It will come to you. Don't worry about it. What I've found with this process is I used to get the answers, but I never used to trust them because they would be flitting through my mind at the speed of light. And I almost didn't, it was almost like this shadow passed across my brain, and that was it. I never understood what it was. And then as I became more aware of how those answers were turning up and how my inner voice was operating, then it's almost like they were flitting past. You catch the tail as they were going past and go, hang on, I've got you, just for a little bit. So just whatever it was, that's just like literally come into your awareness, even if it's for the most fleeting moment. There is your answer, and trusting that answer is key. Now, if you had something and it came to you, what I want you to think about is how did you instantly feel? And our body is an amazing tool for this because we often feel it in a particular place. So maybe your stomach clenched, or maybe your shoulders hunched, or maybe, you know, I know a lot of people who see it in color as well, or they get a sensation, but it's in your body. You'll feel it. How did you feel when that thought came into your head? Did you have, you know, if you had a physical reaction, what was it? Where did you feel it? And then another question for you. I want to know, did it surprise you? What came into your head? Did it surprise you? And did it make sense? So if something's come to you and you have that really clear in your head, or you've just got a vague sense of it at this point in time, the question is, can it change? And how could it change? And that's the next bit of this exercise. We want to flow from what something is to how do we change it. And again, if nothing has come through for you, don't panic, because there is going to be some habit or behavior that you have wanted to develop, that you will know, it's in your head, that you know about. You can work with this for this part of the exercise. But I do want you to keep things very simple at this point. Because we want to connect to the innate We want to connect to the innate creativity at the heart of you. So I'm going to do this exercise with you. Now, this may feel a little bit out there for you because I work with the elements as a tool. And you don't need to have any understanding of that, but we're going to work with the elements now to see all sides of how to change something. And just go with the flow. You don't have to have, there's no preconceptions. There's nothing that you need to have prepared or planned or even thought about. You don't need any special knowledge for this. We're just going to go through a visualization process to see how you can create change. So, this point, I really need you to close your eyes, okay? Assuming you can. If you can't, don't. Come back to it. Take a really nice deep breath and just let it go. And as you take your next breath in, I want you to feel the breath expanding through your whole body, filling your body. And then as you just breathe out, let go of anything that is in your way at the moment. This moment is just for you. Just let yourself be here. So we're going to begin with earth energy. This is the energy of form, opportunity and response to what is needed. So bring into your mind, what are you going to change? In your mind, imagine it in the center of a circle. And you're walking around it, looking at it from every side and every aspect. And as you look at it and you see it from every angle, ask yourself, what is this really? What does it look, feel, behave like? Or how are you behaving, feeling? What is it that you're doing? And give it life, paint a picture of what it is. Focus on the details, colors, shapes, sounds, feelings, actions. You know, you are the creator of this picture. And as you're creating, you'll be seeing what's needed. You'll be seeing where you need more space or different priorities or a stronger voice. You're in complete control here. And as it takes shape, we bring in the energy of air. And the energy of air is the energy of pure possibility. It's where the ripple effects take place. So the question of the energy of air is, when this is real, what does it change and impact and how? Because of this change, what else changes? Now, the energy of air is fantastic for helping us to see beyond the limits of what we already see. So I want you to allow yourself to see the full impact of making this change. There are ramifications of your change. It doesn't always mean it's scary, but there are impacts. And now we're going to bring in the energy of fire, which is the energy of self. It is the energy of presence. Fire can be one of the most difficult energies to hold. So how do you feel as this comes in, and where do you feel it? It's the energy that you rise into through the process of creating. So now we want to know, how do you feel? You've created this picture, you've expanded it, you've seen what impacts it's going to have. How do you feel about that? How are you different? You can be descriptive. You can be very literal about this. But the most important thing that I want you to try to do is to feel in your body how it feels to have created this change. And now we're going to bring in the energy of water. So this is the energy of acceptance. So you create, you expand, you become, and then you accept that you are more than you were. So we are especially accepting a new version of ourselves. And if you've created a new version of yourself, a new version of your life, what else is now open to you? What else can you create? What more are you capable of? And as you consider those questions, again, come back to, how do the answers feel in your body? And where do you feel them? So the key here is to be very much aware of how you are responding to the change that you've created in you through the visualization, and the steps that you took to create it, and who you became in the process. Because transformation is not just about your mindset. It's not just about the actions that you take. It's not just about your beliefs. It's about all of those things and more. It is a process and experience of becoming. Now, I think if you are ready to, just take a nice deep breath. And as you breathe in, just allow it to sort of like just bring you back into your body, into this moment. That's, you may need to come back to that a couple of times. You may need to practice with it. It depends on how experienced you are in using some of these techniques. But one thing I can tell you is that even if you felt that you didn't have a handle on it as we were going through, and I will admit, I do tend to go quite fast. The dialogue is now there. The opportunity is there. So things will come to you in time, even if it's not instant. The thing here is that in terms of creating success on our own terms, of understanding what it is that we want, is that there's a difference between wanting change and creating it. And one of the reasons I wanted to give you a very practical tool to begin the process of change is because we can identify that something needs to change, but the process of becoming really committed to it and taking action on it is a separate step on the journey. So you may have gone through the first part and you said, you've asked yourself, where are you holding back? And it may be something that you are very much aware of. It could be, a pattern of behavior. You're very aware of it, but you aren't yet ready to change it. So you may have gone through this exercise and you may have decided that you are not yet ready to change some of this. that, yeah, okay, it seems like too big a step at this point. That's fine. I have another thing that I would like you to do. And that I want to give is a little exercise on giving yourself permission. So it needs to be something small and simple that you know that you can make a change on. So it's really about somewhere where you can give yourself permission to have something that you may have been denying yourself. So I am not talking about going off and buying a Ferrari or anything like that. I am talking about very simple stuff where you may have put yourself last, or you may have put yourself to the side in order to happen. And for those of you who have children, quite often we tend to put ourselves to one side. So it's a very easy one to relate to, how you can quite often not make time for yourself. But you can do the same thing in a work environment where you allow your values to sit to one side because of a situation that you're in. There can be lots of things that where you have not necessarily allowed yourself to have something or to think something. It might be something as simple as a belief that you have that you don't voice because you're not sure about the reaction that you're going to get to it. Just last night, I'm actually still struggling with this, but last night I had a lengthy and loud debate with my brother, following on from Will's thing lesson last week, about privilege. And I wasn't going to back down from that. So that was it. It was quite a baptism by fire. I wouldn't necessarily recommend, going in, but in at the deep end on something like that. It was actually one of those things where I wasn't prepared to back down, but it surprised me. The extent to which I had to go to, but so it could be something. Please make it something a bit simpler than that. But giving yourself permission to hold an opinion and voice it. The real lesson for me yesterday was the fact that I know that I often walk away from voicing an opinion on something because I don't want the confrontation. Ironic, given the work that I do, but in a personal situation, that's true. So I think it's finding something simple that you can give yourself permission to have. So if that means finding yourself half an hour where you tell everybody that you are to be left alone because you want some peace and quiet for yourself, give yourself permission to do that and to negotiate that. And I know sometimes that can bring you into touch with some boundaries. But that's a starting place, is to give yourself permission. And there is the worksheet for that. It's for some questions to help you identify what to give yourself permission on. Holly's already put that into the group. We're not here, the object of this exercise is not to scare yourself silly. The object of this exercise is to actually help you open the door to creating what you want to create with your life. And that's all that success is. It is about saying, this is my life, this is what I want in my life. And if I create what I want in my life, then I have, by definition, created success. It isn't what anybody else thinks of success. It is what you want to create in your life. And I do want to say that, having been through this myself, and having journeyed through this journey that, we're all guiding you on, it's not always an easy journey. And it can raise some things to the surface. Now, I know that from my work and the work that I do with clients and my community, is that this can bring stuff up. And it can be sometimes difficult to process. So the invitation is there, that I'm here, Holly's here, to actually help you process that. And between now and Thursday, when we do the Q&A, if anything that's coming up for you and you need to work through it, then we're here to help you do that. And that's definitely my commitment to doing this, because I know that once the door is open, the door is open for those changes to happen, and they will happen at their own pace. But if you need the support to work through that, then that's what we're here for. So if you have any questions, I am here, and I haven't looked at what's going on in the group while we were doing that, but
hi Polly, just
yeah.
filling you in. Nobody's commenting in the group just yet. I think that was quite a deep exercise for me personally.
Biggest frustration.
Yeah. Yes, sorry, I just got my sound back on my phone, which was a bad thing to do. Don't do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think it was quite fast. I mean, I'm quite used to reflections and meditations. And I think I just had time to get through each of the elements, which was fine. So I would suggest to people, if you didn't get clear in the earth elements, on having a look at what comes up for you at all angles, give yourself a little bit more time on that. I mean, I remember when I first started doing things like this, and it really, how can I say? I used to do some of these things and get so frustrated and think, why don't I know the answers? Why is nothing coming up for me? What's wrong with me? Am I the only one? So if you're feeling that, give us a thumbs up and just let us know in the group. You don't have to give any detail, but it just gives us a sense of where you're at. The other thing that I would say is there's no right or wrong with it. So when Polly is sharing about the elements, trust your own interpretation with it. So sometimes you might think, oh, well, what does she mean by earth, and what does she mean by fire and water and these things?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what's meant. What matters is what comes up for you, and just go with that. So if you, for example, for me in the fire part of it, I was imagining I saw fire and that I was bright and radiating light and warmth out to the people that were at the center of my issue that I was thinking about, where I'm holding myself back. You might see it totally differently. So one of the things that I know I've learned over time is that when you go into that mode of, oh my gosh, am I doing this right? Is this what I'm supposed to be doing? It kind of blocks the flow. So you might need a second or a third attempt at the visualization.
You may do, and it's better to do it more times than it is to drag it out. And one of the reasons I go faster is because I had exactly that problem. I used to sit in guided meditations when I first doing it, and I was going, will you shut up? I haven't got that. It's like completely blowing out the water, the whole idea of it. So it's like, you're going too fast, you're talking too much, will you? And actually it's just like you just have to trust what you see. One of the things that I know has often leaves people a little bit unsure with my work is that I don't give them specifics. So, it's like, this, you have the answers. I'm not going to give you specifics. And we have learnt somewhere along the way that we need to have the answers, the specifics, the details, in order to know whether or not we've got things right, or if we're doing things right. There's no right or wrong, as you've said. Absolutely no right or wrong. It is just what it is. You get what you get. The experience that you get means something specific to you. I can't explore that for you. I was word as saying, but I might be able to sense it, but I can't explore it for you. It's your experience, and your experience will speak to you in your own way. And that's, to me, is one of the most important things in terms of learning to trust ourselves, and to trust that voice and the wisdom that we have inside, is to actually just go with that flow. So let yourself. You immensely, I cannot tell you how immensely and immeasurably creative you are, and how much power you have within. It is mind-blowingly extraordinary. and it's you. But you have to let it out and let it go and let it do its stuff. So yeah, come back to it and do it a few times
And
if you need to.
I had another question, Polly, which was, you touched on the idea of giving yourself permission. And I think this is so important, even if you don't have children as well, you know.
Oh yeah.
There's so many areas of life where we don't give ourselves permission. And I just wanted to expand on that a little bit, because I used to hear this phrase a lot with coaches and people that I followed, and I didn't really get it. And I think giving yourself permission, for me personally, this is my personal definition of it. So tell me if it's in alignment with what you were trying to say, Polly. But for me, it's really about allowing myself to accept the experience that I've had in life without resistance. So often, if you are in a little bit of a niggle or something with something in life or another person, what there's a tendency to do is to instantly tighten up and go, oh, am I okay to have that experience? Am I okay to say that? Oh, and if I admit that that's what I'm feeling, that's what I'm experiencing, that's how I see life and the world, that's my lens, my window on the world, what if somebody else thinks that's wrong? And a really big part of this for me is about validating your own experience is what you are experiencing. Whether it's right or wrong doesn't really matter. What's important is it is what you are experiencing. And you have a right to validate that experience. And it's only once you allow that experience to be true, because it's true for you and it's how you see things, that you can really begin to let go and begin to give yourself permission. Because until you say, hey, this is me, I validate me, I don't need something from outside me to tell me it's okay. Does that align with what you were saying, Polly?
It does. I mean, giving yourself permission is whatever it needs to mean to you. You know, it's whatever the thing, really, it's about whatever has held you back, or you have allowed to hold you back, and it's different for each of us. So whatever you need to do in order to just make that little bit of movement, to find something that you can change, to prove to yourself that you are capable of creating this change. That's really the point of this exercise, is to put the power back in your hands and say, you can do this, you can make a change, you have the wisdom, you have the knowledge, and you have the ability. It's just you need to say, this is what I'm going to give myself permission to change. And that's where it begins from, and that's how it starts. So yeah, absolutely no rights, no wrongs, just the experience.
You touched on another really important point, which is the idea of, you know, some people might call it perfectionism. As we start to walk our path and follow our inner teacher, if you like, as opposed to all the external voices, I noticed that what comes up for both in my own life and with my clients is this sense that we need to be somehow perfect in order to be able to walk forward in that direction. We have to have everything worked out, everything clear. We have to know that we're not going to make any mistakes. And I definitely think it's worth laboring the point that you said it's about allowing yourself to make mistakes. I would say it's about letting yourself experiment. Yes. Because if you don't let yourself experiment, if you don't let yourself take chances where you don't know what's going to happen, then you're never going to be able to expand into your true potential, because that's how we hold ourselves back.
Yes, absolutely. And we need to try a few things on for size. I mean, if you go clothes shopping, you're going to pick up a whole load of things and try them on and see which one you like the most. You know, it's the same is true with your life, in terms of well, do I enjoy doing this? Does it bring me a great deal of satisfaction, or do I enjoy doing that? And you know that there's lots of things that we want to do, and in order to define what we mean by success, or what we want in our lives, then we have to actually play around and see what it is that we do want.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly the more disconnected you've become as well from that process, by, you know, if family or society have actually, you know, really driven a wedge between you and your understanding of what you want, then you're really going to have to play around to see what lights you up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think as well, you know, some people may have tuned into this video expecting some big grand definition of what success is. And I just thought it's worth us mentioning that for a moment, because I certainly know when I was younger, I had a particular vision of success. And it was money, steady income, being able to buy a house, knowing that things were safe and secure. And when I got all of that, I realized it wasn't actually making me happy. And I thought, wow, where did that definition of success come from for me? And I realized it's come from teachers, school, parents, society. And there really wasn't a lot of help out there back then for me to figure out, okay, well, what actually makes me happy? So for me, my definition of success now is it's a balance between the material side of life and what I would call the more spiritual side of life, that sense of fulfillment. I don't mean spiritual in the religious sense. I mean spiritual in the very simple sense of me enjoying life, me feeling satisfied, happy, content. Don't necessarily mean super happy every day. Let's be realistic. But just knowing that I'm heading in the right direction, that I'm continually evolving myself. And getting to that point of clarity doesn't happen overnight. As you said, it's a process. And it's a gradual revealing. So every time you take a step, every time you make a transition and a change, you get a little bit more data. And that bit of data, a bit like a scientist, you're adding to the picture so that you can see more patterns and work out. It's like an iteration where over time you get closer and closer and closer in. But over that time, you also develop and grow and evolve, and what you see as success might change. So then you have to begin that scientific process of noting the patterns again all over. So it's this never-ending cycle that goes round and forward at the same time.
Yeah, and I think our work is such a big part of that. You know, it's such a big part of our lives that it can be so easy to get off track with that process of committing to that evolution, committing to being true to you in the choices that you make and the decisions you take, that, you know, we owe it to ourselves to have that honesty, and if we are going to compromise, to know where we're compromising and why we're compromising. Because there's often reasons why we need to compromise, and we can live with those compromises if we can create some balance elsewhere in our lives. You know, because work is only one part of of how you show up in the world and how you create change, because your simple presence in the world is creating change. And the more conscious you are of that, the more conscious you become of the choices you make. So you can, you know, take a decision to say that actually my work can take a back seat because there's something else I want to do. Or you can say, my work really can't take a back seat because it's such a big part of my life that I have to commit myself to making it something that brings me satisfaction, joy, fulfillment. You know, so it is about being very much aware of that process rather than allowing ourselves to coast along or be guided by others in that decision making.
Yeah, I think that's so true. that it's important to actually put time into figuring this stuff out, even though it feels unclear and complex or strange even. Because until you sit down and start to steer the ship of your life in the direction that you want to go, you're just going to get pushed along by the current.
Yeah.
And that can be fun, but it can also land you in some troubled waters, I think, at times in life, where you get there and you realize, hang on, this isn't where I want it to be.
I remember, sorry, I was just giving an example. I mean, I did an English and drama degree, and I got to the end of it, and I decided I wanted to go off and do an environmental management master's. And I remember telling my English tutor at the time, I said, what I was going to do, and she just went, "What's that got to do with English?" I was just like, so utterly befuddled by this question, because it made no sense to me, but it clearly made absolute perfect sense to her. And it's that idea of that you're on a track, that the steps are already laid out for you. It's okay to do a 180. It's okay to take a completely different path. You don't have to jump from one career goal to the next. You can, if you want to, particularly as we move into, I think for entrepreneurs, you've got the choice. You can, it's down to you. You can make any decision you want to. You can pivot, overnight. But in work, I think as we move towards more competency-based recruitment and an understanding of transferable skills, what's to stop you changing careers completely every time you feel like it? There's nothing. It's the idea that you have to follow these steps is completely artificial. It's your life. You get to make the decisions and you get to choose.
Yeah, I know for me as well. I was on the engineering track, as an engineer, you do your degree, you go into your grad job, you work your way up and you head towards getting chartered. And that the pull and the conditioning to stay on that track meant that there was a lot of resistance for me to change off it, because I felt like, I actually sat next to somebody in work who said to me, those who can do and those who can't teach. And I knew that I loved teaching, and I knew that that was such a closed mindset about what success is. And funnily enough, I actually quit that job without having a direction. And I wouldn't necessarily recommend that, because it was difficult and it led to some things that, in hindsight, you can always see how you could have done it differently. However, what I never, ever regretted was the fact that it gave me breathing space from that conditioning, from being in that environment. Do not underestimate the impact of the people that you surround yourself with every single day. And if you are, like I was, in a particular industry or in a particular workplace, or even with the group of friends, because I think the people you connect with every day as a business owner, so important, because if you're surrounding yourself with people that don't have the courage to do that sort of stuff, they can often bring a negative viewpoint that isn't helpful to your development. And so it's really important to notice the environment you're in terms of supporting you getting to that sense of what does success mean to you. So I went from this very materialistic view to realizing, I went through a bit of a depression with it, I'll admit. It was like, how do I do this within the constraints of the world? It's not easy to make a career change. Yes, you can go and do anything, and yes, you can change, but there are practical realities, around you. You've got to be able to pay your bills. You've got to take care of your responsibilities. In some industries, there is no escaping the fact that you do have to get a qualification. You do have to meet those things, and you have to find a way to fund that, the time. You have to bring your family along, or your friends and everyone that's around you on that journey with you. And so the point is, allow yourself to follow that spark, allow yourself to follow the joy and the love and the passion, because whenever I'm stuck in life, I come to this really simple question, which is, am I going to follow the love or the fear? That's my simplistic way of saying it. And it's like, when usually where there's a fear, it's a place I need to walk into. Yeah. And
Yes.
the things that scare us the most are the areas that we most need to go into, where we are longing for expansion. And that's what fear is. Fear is not this thing to set your nervous system on fire and going haywire and all your emotions going. Fear is this little nugget. It's like the universe talking to you through your body, saying, something to look at here. There's a place to go. There's an opportunity for evolvement and expansion and developing yourself where you want to go. Here's a place where you're limiting yourself.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that fear is something to be ignored either. It's often there for a reason. And I think there can be a tendency in coaching and certain healing work to railroad the fear and be like, you've just got to overcome it with willpower. But I think acknowledge it, explore it, notice what it brings up for you.
Yeah. And I think it's learning to understand what fear is and what fear isn't, because you will feel a fear that is a resistance differently to a fear that is a genuine need to feel that fear, to respond to the fear, not to respond past the fear, if that distinction is clear. I think we if you feel that sort of one of the reasons I was saying that in the exercise is feel it in your body, is because your body will tell you whether or not it's a fear that you need to lean into or a fear that you need to lean out away from. And you may find that you have that sort of like, for me, it's a slight knotting in my stomach, not quite butterflies. It's like, I don't really want to go there, but I need to get you. But there's a sort of curiosity to it. So I am reminded of many years ago, I was looking for a companion pony for my horse. And I went up onto this common, and there's 20 ponies living wild on this common. And I see this little thing, and I look at her, and she has that look on her face. It took me 18 months to get her to stand on 4 feet. I mean, she had been abused, she was traumatized and everything. But when I looked at her on that common, she had that little look of curiosity in her eye. That was the moment that I said, it's you. And I think it's, I come back to that as that sort of like, there's always another dimension to just the fear. Do you know what I mean? Whereas the fear, if you need to listen to the fear because it's telling you something you need to run, then it's just going to be pure fear. There's nothing going to be else wrapped up in the mix. I hope that makes sense. I work a lot through analogies.
Yeah, I think my interpretation of that is, when something is a clear no, and if it's a maybe, then it's probably something to explore. Because I know for myself, and this is my slightly fiery nature, is that I'll dig my heels in when I really am not sure. And whereas when it's a genuine fear, I'm just like, no. And it's kind of like a calm, not having any messing. That's what it is. So there's a slight difference in the feeling. And they show up in different places in my body. So a clear no for me shows up right in the middle of my tummy.
Yeah.
Whereas other things tend to show up as a contraction of some sort, either in my lungs, in my neck, in a part in my hands even sometimes, depending on what the issue is.
Yeah.
So getting to know those body responses is so important. And, I'm a yoga teacher as well. And I certainly know that being in tune with your body, hearing your body, listening to your body and not just your mind, because our bodies have so much more wisdom than just our minds do.
Yeah. Yeah, they really do.
So we come to the end of the session. It's about 3 minutes past 7, Polly.
Okay.
Do you have any closing thoughts or remarks or anything you want to ask or leave the group with?
No, but I'm just going to have a quick look. Okay, right. That's fine. I was just going to have a look at the questions and see if there's anything that we needed to address before we. Well, that it looks like phones have been dying left, right, centre. So that's fine. Yeah, no, I don't think so. But I do want to reiterate. If you need any support with this, if it feels like you're destabilizing at all, then that's normal. It's okay, and we're here to catch you. We never went into this process to, for you to have to deal with this on your own. That's what the group is here for. That's what we're here for, is to help you work through this and to come out the other end of this 8 weeks with real clarity and focus and commitment and direction to make the changes that you want to make, or even having made them along the way. So please do reach out if you need that. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, and I'd just like to echo what Polly said and say as well. For me, my biggest lesson has been allowing myself to be vulnerable, allowing myself to admit that I don't know everything, that I am human, that I am scared sometimes. And, I still make mistakes all the time and I don't have all the answers. And, as you go through this group, it really is an opportunity to get vulnerable. This is a completely safe space. If anybody was nasty or funny as the group managers, we would take care of that. So you don't need to be afraid to ask those questions and to speak up. Yeah. And all of our emails are available. And this isn't to sell you on something or to try and get you into a coaching program or anything like that. It's 100% completely to just support you and to help you. And, this is completely free. You have like a group of really, really amazing teachers, and use their wisdom, get the most out of them, ask them questions. If you've got something going on in the week, whether it's related to these lessons or not, pop it in, use the group wisdom. That's what we're here for. We invite you to do that. And the last thing that I wanted to say is Polly had offered to share one of her programs with somebody. And I think because we haven't got that many people live today, I wonder whether we should leave that to the end, or for a moment when you notice somebody, Polly, that you think might benefit from that. How does that feel for you?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
And if people want to jump on to the Q&A on Thursday, maybe we could even do it then.
Absolutely. Yeah. That would be great, because I know that there's quite a few people that are going to follow up and watch this tomorrow and the next couple of days. So on that note, we look forward to joining you again on Thursday. So in this group, we have the lesson every Monday at 6 p.m. in the UK, 1 p.m. in Eastern time for those in the US. And we then meet again on a Thursday. So once you've had time to practice the exercises that are shared, to let the lesson sink in and you notice your reflections, you then get an opportunity to come back and ask us any questions. So if you've struggled with that visualization in any way, bring it on Thursday. Come and ask Polly, what can I do about this? How can I think about this differently? If you just have a burning question, we're more than happy to field those. And if you can't join us live on Thursday, do send your questions on email to me, holly@evolving.careers, or drop me a message within the group and we will filter those in to Thursday's session for those that can't be live with us as well. Okay, so have a lovely rest of the day, everybody. Thank you so much, Polly. That was a wonderful session. I got so much from it and I hope that everybody else did too.
See you all soon.
See you soon. Bye.